Ethan squinted at the blinking console, muttering to himself as though the machine might answer back. Come on, you oversized paperweight, show me something useful for once. His fingers danced over the keyboard in a clumsy rhythm, sending sparks of static into the air. Somewhere outside, the hum of his old satellite dish groaned like an exhausted space walrus, but Ethan didn't care. He had a feeling, a ridiculously stubborn, tinfoil hat kind of feeling, that something unusual was coming through the static. The signal appeared suddenly, like someone had sneezed in the cosmos, and it bounced straight into his lab. A rhythmic pulse, almost melodic, yet annoyingly precise. Ethan leaned forward, one eyebrow raised, as if the universe itself had decided to poke him in the eye. Really? You couldn't have just beeped once like a normal cosmic signal? No, of course not. You had to compose a whole symphony just to get me here. Despite the absurdity, curiosity won. Ethan grabbed his helmet, shoved a pocket full of protein bars into his jacket, and stumbled out toward the uncharted sector the signal pointed to. He wasn't sure why he'd packed snacks, except that he always did. Maybe in the back of his mind, he expected that alien encounters would be boring, and who knew how long it might take to get a good granola bar. The ship appeared in the distance like a mirage of liquid light, its surface refracting the nearby stars in dizzying, kaleidoscopic patterns. Ethan's jaw slackened. Well, that's not terrifying at all, he said, trying to sound brave while simultaneously tripping over a stray rock floating in zero gravity. He waved at the ship with a half-hearted salute, as if a polite hello might prevent it from noticing him. Boarding was trickier than expected. The airlock hissed open like a giant sigh, and the floor gleamed with a reflective polish that practically dared him to slip. Naturally, he did. One dramatic slide later, Ethan ended up pressed against the wall, arms flailing, and swore that his dignity had just been ejected into the void. A faint, unseen chuckle seemed to echo in the corridor, but Ethan dismissed it. He hoped. The halls twisted and shimmered as he stumbled forward, each corner folding in ways that defied Euclidean geometry. Light pulses danced along the walls, sometimes illuminating his path, sometimes flickering to reveal a door he hadn't noticed a second ago. I'm either about to meet the love of my life or the galaxy's most passive-aggressive janitor, he muttered. He pressed on, fascinated despite his nerves, slipping again, because of course he did, on a panel that popped up like a spring-loaded banana peel. Then, he saw her. Standing calmly in the middle of the room, hands folded, a faint smirk on her lips, was a woman. Human in shape and size, yet something about her made him pause. Her ears were long, elegant, twitching subtly as if they had a mind of their own. Her eyes flickered with a strange spectrum of colors, shifting gently, and her gaze met his with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. Ah, she said, voice smooth like liquid glass. You're late. Ethan blinked. Me? Late? I was, fashionably early. He swallowed, realizing the word sounded ridiculous even to his own ears. I mean, I followed the signal, kind of. Sort of exactly. Honestly, it felt like I was being lured. She tilted her head, and her ears twitched in sync. Lured? Perhaps. Or perhaps the universe simply enjoys your clumsiness. Ethan frowned, then gave a small, sheepish shrug. Well, I do have a reputation to uphold. She laughed. It was soft, melodic, carrying a sense of amusement that made him relax instantly. I've been expecting someone interesting. And you, clearly, qualify. Her words sent a mix of relief and anxiety through him, though her tone was playful, not threatening. Ethan tried to look composed and failed spectacularly, knocking over a floating console in the process. That's part of my charm, he said, cheeks burning. The woman, whose name he would soon learn as Leora, waved a hand, and the console corrected itself, floating back into place. Charm, yes. And a remarkable ability to create chaos wherever you go. I think you'll fit right in. Ethan tried to step forward, tripped over thin air, or maybe an invisible floor panel, and landed in a half-roll, half-crash position in front of her. I'm not normally this, spectacularly uncoordinated, he said, dusting off his jacket. Leora's ears twitched again, clearly suppressing laughter. Noted, she said lightly. But it is entertaining. She gestured to the corridor ahead. Come. You must learn the ways of the ship. The corridors are lively. And they have a sense of humor of their own. Ethan hesitated. Wait, the ship has a sense of humor? Yes. It does. It enjoys seeing new visitors flail around. She smiled faintly, and Ethan felt both terrified and inexplicably reassured. So, I guess I'm not imagining the laughter, then. Not at all, she said. The ship and I have an understanding. It likes you. For now. Ethan groaned. Fantastic. So, I'm on an alien ship, meeting a woman with very polite long ears, and apparently the ship itself wants to watch me fail. How's that for a first impression? Leora chuckled again. Exactly. Welcome aboard, Ethan. Let's see what you're really made of. He swallowed, and for the first time in his life, the chaos of the universe felt oddly exciting. He stepped forward, bracing for whatever strange, improbable, and mildly humiliating adventure awaited him next. The corridors shifted, light flickering playfully, as if to say, let the fun begin. Ethan followed Leora through the twisting corridors, each step a careful negotiation with the floor that seemed to shift just enough to make him question gravity. I swear, he muttered, this ship has personal vendettas against clumsy humans. Leora glanced over her shoulder, her long ears tilting slightly, a small smirk playing on her lips. Not vendettas. Entertainment, she corrected. And you provide a remarkable amount of it. Ethan's shoulders slumped. I'm a one-man comedy show. Glad the universe appreciates my art. He stumbled over a low-hanging light that flickered like it had a mind of its own, swatting at it like a mosquito. The light bobbed out of reach, and Leora's laugh followed him, gentle but teasing. Focus, she said, and Ethan attempted to comply, although he wasn't entirely sure what focus looked like in zero-G corridors that occasionally looped back on themselves. They entered a chamber filled with floating panels, each displaying strange symbols and holographic star maps. Ethan gawked. This is like a high-tech disco for the mathematically obsessed, he said. A panel floated close, spinning lazily, and he reached to steady it, only to push it in the wrong direction. It zipped across the room, narrowly missing him, and bounced back with a gentle tap against his helmet. Leora's eyes twinkled. You'll get used to it, she said. Or it will get used to you. It's hard to say which. Ethan exhaled. I'm guessing the ship likes pranks. Leora's smirk widened. Mildly. It enjoys clever humans. But mostly, it enjoys unpredictability. And you, well, you're very predictable, in a way that surprises it. Ethan tilted his head. Predictable unpredictability. I think I'm insulted, but also flattered. Leora shook her head, her ears brushing the air. Just walk forward. And try not to knock over anything else. She gestured to a panel floating in midair. See that? It's a guide. It will help direct you, though it occasionally misinterprets your gestures. For example, waving too enthusiastically can summon the maintenance bots instead of a path. Ethan raised his hands cautiously. Maintenance bots. Are they friendly? They are neutral until provoked. And you have a knack for provocation, she replied with mock solemnity. Ethan stepped forward slowly, moving like a dancer in a very badly choreographed ballet. A small drone zipped past, zipping circles around him like a hyperactive mosquito. He waved experimentally, and the drone zoomed upward, leaving him in a dizzying spiral of relief and minor panic. Okay, that was fine. I think, he said. Leora's soft laugh echoed. You're learning, she said, eyes dancing with amusement. Now, the ship has rooms that react to emotion, or perhaps perception. I never really understood the difference. Sometimes a room will float objects at you if it senses fear, sometimes if it senses excitement. It's inconsistent. And humorous, in its way. Ethan groaned. So, it's like living in a cosmic mood ring with a vendetta against coordination. That would be an accurate description, Leora said. Come, I'll show you the observation deck. Or at least, a version of it that isn't prone to rearranging itself every 5 minutes. Ethan followed, cautiously navigating a corridor that suddenly angled upward, sending him sliding on the floor until he grabbed onto a handhold that wasn't really meant for humans. I really need a manual for this place, he muttered. Leora leaned against the wall, long ears twitching. Manuals are unnecessary, she said. Experience is far more entertaining. At last, they reached a chamber that opened to the void, the window revealing stars stretching into impossible patterns, their light bending around the ship as though space itself were giving a wink. Ethan pressed a hand against the glass, awestruck. Okay, this is incredible. I mean, terrifying, but... Wow. Leora watched him silently, tilting her head, her ears flicking with interest. You adapt faster than I expected, she said. Adaptation is a necessary survival skill, Ethan replied. Or maybe it's just my natural talent for tripping into success. He spun in a small circle, testing gravity with a cautious hop, nearly bumping into a floating console. Leora's soft chuckle followed. It's charming. You have a peculiar relationship with physics, I see. He tried to look dignified. I prefer, playful with laws of nature, thank you very much. Leora's eyes gleamed with amusement. Playful. Yes, that is accurate. The corridor beyond the observation deck began to pulse lightly, colors shifting as if reacting to their presence. Ethan stepped forward, hesitating as a panel hovered near him, projecting a map of the ship. Wait, does that map move? Leora nodded. It does. The ship likes to rearrange itself. You could take the same path twice and encounter something completely different. Or a slightly more terrifying version of the same thing. Ethan's face twisted in mock horror. Terrifying version, huh? Fantastic. I was worried things were going too smoothly. He sidestepped a floating cube that blinked like a blinking eye. And that thing, is it alive? Or is the ship messing with me again? Possibly both, Leora said lightly. You'll figure it out eventually. Ethan leaned back, exhaling, and then laughed softly. I can't believe I'm actually enjoying this, sort of. Even if the ship and my balance are conspiring against me. Leora smiled, her long ears flicking as if acknowledging a victory. Enjoyment is encouraged here. Painful flailing is optional, though apparently highly amusing. Ethan looked around at the shifting panels, the glimmering lights, and the vastness of the void just beyond the glass. Somehow, amid the chaos, the jokes, and the near-constant fear of tripping into oblivion, he felt alive. And maybe, just maybe, he was beginning to understand that curiosity, humor, and the occasional well-timed stumble might be exactly what was required to survive, and even thrive, on this alien ship. Leora's voice interrupted his thoughts. Ready to see the next room? Ethan nodded, adjusting his jacket nervously. As ready as I'll ever be. Or as ready as anyone can be when the floor might eat them alive. Her ears twitched in amusement. Good. Follow me. And try not to die. I'll do my best, he said, stepping forward, bracing himself for whatever strange, improbable adventure awaited. The corridor pulsed again, lights shifting as though winking conspiratorially, and Ethan couldn't help but grin. The adventure was only just beginning. Ethan followed Leora into a chamber that defied all his previous attempts at logic. The walls shimmered, breathing light in slow waves, and panels hovered midair as if each had its own personality. "Welcome to the instruction room," Leora said, her long ears flicking with amusement. "Here, you'll learn to survive on this ship, or at least to avoid embarrassing yourself in front of it too often." Ethan took a hesitant step forward. "Instruction room, huh? And what exactly does one learn here? Quantum origami? Telepathic tea ceremonies? Hoverboard etiquette?" "Mostly how not to annoy the ship," Leora said, twirling a hand as if conducting invisible instruments. "It has standards, you know. Standards and a sense of humor. And it doesn't forgive easily." Ethan's eyes widened. "Standards. Right. Because I always meet standards. Especially those set by a spaceship with attitude." He shuffled forward, watching a floating panel that blinked at him like a blinking, judgmental eye. "Try touching it," Leora suggested, one eyebrow raised. "Gently. And if it zaps you, do not scream. The ship enjoys melodrama." Ethan extended a cautious finger. The panel hummed softly, then projected a holographic display in midair. He jumped back. "Okay. That was, barely shocking. I mean, not too bad. Could have been worse." "You're learning," Leora said, smirking. Her ears twitched as she leaned against a console that floated lazily beside her. "Now, the first lesson, interpreting the ship's signals. Sometimes it communicates directly. Sometimes indirectly. And sometimes, it just likes to see you dance with floating cubes." Ethan groaned. "Floating cubes. Fantastic. Why did I ever think science fiction would be romanticized as cool? This is more like a circus with lasers." "And you fit right in," Leora said. "You're chaotic enough to amuse it, but clever enough to survive its games. Or at least stumble spectacularly without dying." As if to test him, a series of small orbs floated into the room, each pulsing with color and sound. One hovered at eye level, another at knee level, and the last buzzed near his helmet like a hyperactive mosquito. Ethan waved his hands. Hello. I'm Ethan, your friendly neighborhood human. Please don't electrocute me, or do, but gently." The orbs hummed, shifted, and then formed a loose spiral around him. Ethan spun, trying to avoid contact, which only resulted in a slapstick ballet of flailing arms and nearly tripping over a floating console. Leora's laughter echoed, melodic and warm. "See? It enjoys you. Even when you're ridiculous." Ethan paused, panting. "I am ridiculous. That is undeniable. But I'm also, okay, slightly terrified. And slightly impressed." "Good balance," Leora said. "Next lesson, the gravity fields. They are, flexible. Sometimes polite. Sometimes not. You must learn to anticipate their moods." Before Ethan could respond, the floor beneath him tilted slightly, sending him sliding toward a wall that wasn't really a wall. He flailed, managed to grab a rail, and ended up dangling upside down. "Polite gravity, huh? Yeah, very polite." Leora's ears twitched. "Not polite, but not cruel. It is, selective. Like an eccentric cat." "An eccentric cat that wants to see me fail spectacularly," Ethan muttered, gingerly righting himself. "Great. Just great. This is exactly what I imagined my life would be when I became an interstellar traveler." "Did you expect smooth corridors and polite aliens?" Leora asked. "Well, yes," Ethan admitted. "I mean, I thought there'd be aliens who talked in riddles and gave cryptic advice, but not this." He gestured vaguely at the floating panels, spinning orbs, and shifting floor. "This is chaos with LEDs." Leora laughed. "You'll learn to enjoy it. Or at least, to survive it with dignity." Ethan hesitated at a cluster of floating cubes that blinked in a pattern. What do these do? They respond to sound and movement, Leora explained. Step too loudly, flap your arms too wildly, and they'll chase you. React correctly, and they may open pathways or reveal hidden data. Or explode. Who can say? Ethan took a deep breath. All right. Let's test your theory. Watch carefully. He tiptoed, arms out, making exaggerated ballet movements. One cube followed, then two, then all three. Ethan spun, crouched, and finally waved dramatically. The cubes froze, then zipped apart, forming a glowing path leading deeper into the room. He bowed. I am a master of cube negotiation. You may all take notes. Leora clapped softly. Impressive. But don't get too proud. The next test is more demanding. Ethan's stomach sank. Demanding? Oh, this is where I learn that my life is in serious jeopardy. Not jeopardy, Leora corrected. Challenge. The ship values creativity, humor, and courage. And occasionally, it values humans who can trip over their own 2 feet without screaming excessively. Ethan groaned. I already meet 2 of those. Humor is debatable. You meet it exceptionally, Leora said. Now, for the final exercise in this chamber, a memory puzzle. The panels will display sequences of stars, colors, and symbols. You must replicate the pattern. Fail, and the ship will, well, it might rearrange this room. You don't want that. Ethan stepped forward, studying the first panel sequence. He mimicked the motions, accidentally activating a floating hologram that erupted into miniature fireworks. He ducked as sparks rained harmlessly around him. I swear, I am this close to being a hero, he muttered. Leora's ears twitched in amusement. Heroic, yes. Also lucky. Very lucky. Ethan blinked. Lucky, or just ridiculously inept? Both, she said. The ship enjoys both. Now continue. Concentration, humor, creativity, use all 3. Hours, or what felt like hours in the elastic time of the chamber, passed in a flurry of trial, error, and spectacular near-misses. Ethan laughed at his own clumsiness, shouted jokes at the panels, and even started talking to the floating orbs as if they were audience members in a cosmic play. Leora followed silently, occasionally offering a tip or an amused comment. Finally, the sequence completed successfully. The room shifted, panels floating away to reveal a corridor glowing with welcoming light. Ethan collapsed onto the floor, laughing and gasping. I survived. I didn't die. And the ship didn't eject me into the void. Leora smiled, her long ears flicking once more. You did remarkably well. Perhaps you will survive the next chamber too, or at least entertain it thoroughly. Ethan got to his feet, brushing himself off. Next chamber, huh? I feel like I just leveled up in some cosmic video game. Or I accidentally joined a circus with lasers. The line between those is thinner than you think, Leora said. Come. Let's see what the next lesson holds. And together, amid the floating cubes, shifting gravity, and teasing panels, they stepped forward into the ship's mysterious depths, the adventure only growing stranger, funnier, and more improbable with every step. Ethan stepped cautiously into the next chamber, half expecting it to be another harmlessly tricky puzzle. Instead, the room pulsed with a low hum, a vibration that seemed to pass directly through his bones. He froze. Okay, that's a little more intimidating, he muttered. Leora followed calmly, her long ears twitching like radar dishes. It's more observant than intimidating. Mostly, she said, her tone lightly teasing. But it does react to uninvited guests. In a polite, mildly terrifying way. Ethan swallowed. Polite and terrifying, those are my 2 favorite qualities in any situation, he said, though his voice wavered slightly. Mostly terrifying, actually. He took a step forward, and a small security drone whirred past, scanning him with a single glowing eye. Ah! Hello. Friendly. Friendly. I'm a human ambassador of good intentions. The drone paused midair, then zipped away. Ethan exhaled. Okay. It seems neutral. Neutral is good. Neutral is less likely to electrocute me. Neutral, yes, Leora said. But occasionally mischievous. And occasionally deadly. Depends entirely on how entertaining it finds you. Ethan looked around, noting the walls shifting subtly, creating new alcoves and corridors as if the room itself was breathing. I feel like I'm in one of those virtual reality games where the level keeps moving, and I'm the main character who trips over everything. You are, Leora said, smiling faintly. Except the stakes are real. But the jokes are optional. And highly recommended. He moved forward, stepping carefully on the glowing tiles that changed color beneath his feet. One tile lit up bright red. Ethan froze. Red means danger, right? Or maybe it means. Please dance. Leora's smirk widened. Possibly both. The ship appreciates interpretive dance. Especially from humans. Ethan groaned. Great. I am now a reluctant dancer for an alien AI with mood swings. He took a deep breath and did a hesitant spin, which somehow triggered a panel to float down and gently nudge him. Friendly nudge. I'm interpreting that as friendly. Yes. Friendly, Leora said. At least, until you do it again. Then, maybe not. As they moved deeper, the hum intensified, and Ethan noticed another drone hovering silently near the ceiling. Okay, now it's personal. I think they're plotting something. They are, Leora said lightly. But plotting is fun. A game of strategy. You'll be fine, as long as you keep laughing. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Laughing keeps me alive now. That's comforting. Extremely comforting, Leora said, flicking her long ears in amusement. You see, this room tests courage, creativity, and humor. If you panic, it responds. If you think logically, it responds. If you entertain it, she smiled. Then you may survive with dignity. Ethan's stomach did a nervous flip. Entertain it. Right. I can do that. Watch me flop gracefully in a very human, non-threatening manner. He tripped over a slight protrusion in the floor and ended up sliding, flailing, and accidentally kicking a small floating orb. The orb zipped around in circles, then gently nudged him toward the next tile. Ethan bowed dramatically. Thank you, my alien audience. I accept your polite applause. Leora laughed. Bravo. You're remarkably consistent. Ethan shook his head, straightening his jacket. Consistently clumsy. That's my superpower. He glanced at the pulsing walls and the drones circling overhead. Okay, serious question, at what point do I stop being entertaining and start being obliterated? Depends entirely on your improvisation skills, Leora said. And your sense of humor. The room has a sense of timing. And a love for slapstick. Ethan exhaled and stepped forward carefully. A panel lit up, projecting a holographic puzzle of interconnected geometric shapes. Ah, logic puzzle. I can do this. I think. Maybe. Possibly with a minor crash and burn. Try, Leora encouraged. And remember, it enjoys mistakes as much as successes. He worked through the puzzle, fumbling occasionally, making jokes out loud to keep the room from reacting too harshly. When he misplaced a piece, the panel emitted a low, musical tone, almost like laughter. Ethan bowed. Thank you, panel. I live to amuse. Leora's ears twitched in delight. Remarkable. You're learning quickly. Most humans would panic by now. Or scream. I scream internally, Ethan admitted. Externally, I prefer sarcasm and poorly executed heroics. They moved deeper into the chamber, now entering a corridor with shifting gravity fields. Ethan had to leap, cling, and spin to avoid floating aimlessly into the ceiling. I feel like I'm auditioning for zero-G gymnastics, he shouted, narrowly catching a handhold. You're doing wonderfully, Leora said. And amusingly. Suddenly, one of the hovering drones accelerated toward him. Ethan froze. Then, remembering Leora's advice, he waved dramatically, shouted a joke about interstellar coffee, and spun on a glowing tile. The drone slowed, hovered, and zipped upward, circling back to its previous position. Ethan exhaled in relief. See? Humor works. It's all about comedic timing. Leora tilted her head. You are discovering a truth few humans ever realize. Sometimes the universe responds better to a joke than a laser weapon. I'm taking notes, Ethan said. And maybe writing a memoir, How to Survive Alien Ships with Sarcasm and Clumsiness. They reached the chamber's end, a massive door pulsing with energy. Ethan's heart raced. So, this is the final test. Final for this stage, Leora said. Beyond lies the core. But you've learned the essentials: courage, creativity, and humor. The ship responds to all three. Fail to amuse, fail to survive. Succeed, and, well, you'll see. Ethan shook his head, grinning nervously. I am a professional entertainer now, apparently. And possibly a hero by accident. Leora's eyes glimmered, her long ears twitching. By accident or not, you've made it through with flair. Now, shall we continue? Ethan adjusted his jacket, inhaled deeply, and stepped forward. Let's see what other cosmic absurdities this ship has in store. The door glowed brighter, the humming intensified, and Ethan felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with comedic terror. Whatever awaited them, he knew he would meet it with clumsy bravery, sarcastic commentary, and, most importantly, a smile. The adventure continued, each step a mix of peril, amusement, and discovery. Ethan stood at the threshold of the ship's core, staring at a pulsing chamber of light that seemed to stretch into infinity. The walls were made of translucent panels, each displaying swirling constellations and symbols that shifted in real time, as if the universe itself were being rearranged just for him. Okay, he muttered, this is either the control room, or a cosmic disco. Either way, I feel underdressed. Leora's long ears twitched, her eyes reflecting the brilliant, shifting lights. It is both, she said. And more. This is the heart of the ship. The place that decides whether visitors are merely entertained or worthy of the knowledge it holds. Ethan swallowed. Decides? Like, yes, you live, here's galactic secrets, or, no, you're funny but ultimately disposable. Precisely, Leora said, tilting her head with a smirk. But you've already demonstrated entertainment value. Now it's about creativity, courage, and honesty. Ethan's jaw dropped. Honesty? I thought I passed all the comedy and clumsiness tests with flying colors. You did, Leora said, ears flicking with amusement. But honesty is another challenge. The ship values truth more than bravado. It will know if you hide your fears or your intentions. Ethan took a deep breath and stepped forward. Panels of light floated around him, forming paths, symbols, and occasionally a floating holographic cup of coffee that winked at him. Okay, ship, he muttered, honesty. I'm terrified. I've been tripping over everything, offending gravity, and somehow survived. I'm not sure I know what I'm doing, but I'm here, and I care. Is that honest enough? A pulse of light rippled through the chamber. The orbs from previous rooms circled him in approval, blinking in patterns that seemed almost like laughter. Ethan felt his heart lift. So. I passed. Somehow my blend of terror and sarcasm worked. It did, Leora said softly. You have adapted. You've learned to balance caution with curiosity, humor with courage, and chaos with creativity. That is precisely what this ship values. Ethan exhaled. So, all my flailing, my jokes, my clumsy heroics, they were meaningful. Yes, Leora said, stepping beside him. And you've done it without losing yourself. That is rare. A new panel lit up at the center of the chamber. Symbols and constellations rearranged themselves into a holographic map of galaxies, stars, and planets unknown to human astronomers. Ethan reached out instinctively. The map responded, shifting under his touch, revealing hidden star systems, safe passages, and ancient signals from civilizations long thought extinct. This is incredible, he whispered. I can explore these. Chart them. Learn from them. Yes, Leora said, her long ears brushing lightly against the floating panels. The ship entrusts you with this knowledge. Not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to embrace imperfection, to act with curiosity, courage, and humor. Ethan's shoulders slumped with relief, but a grin crept across his face. So I've become some sort of accidental interstellar explorer. Accidental, yes, Leora said, smirking. But effective. That is the key distinction. Ethan laughed, a full, genuine laugh that echoed in the chamber. I never thought my life would end up like this. Tripping through space, arguing with intelligent panels, negotiating with floating orbs, and somehow, learning about the galaxy. He shook his head. This is the most ridiculous, wonderful adventure I've ever had. Leora's smile softened. And you've changed. You're braver, more inventive, and more adaptable. You see that failures can be lessons, humor can be a tool, and even the strangest circumstances can be navigated with patience and curiosity. Ethan nodded slowly. I feel different. More capable, more alive. And less likely to panic at floating cubes, which is a personal milestone. The chamber pulsed again, the lights shifting to warmer hues, and the map of galaxies seemed to bow slightly toward him. The ship acknowledges your growth, Leora said. It will guide you on your journeys. You are free to leave, or to continue exploring with it, if you wish. Ethan's heart raced. Leave. Or continue. That's a huge choice. But I think I've learned enough to trust the unknown. To embrace the chaos. And to keep laughing along the way. He looked at Leora. So, do we explore together? Or do I go off solo, collecting cosmic stories and tripping spectacularly through new worlds? You choose, she said. I will be here, in some capacity. Perhaps as a guide, or companion, or witness to your continued adventures. Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't known he could feel. Then we explore. Together. The core pulsed one final time, the lights brightening and shifting to show a path forward, a corridor of possibility stretching into the unknown. Ethan stepped forward, hand brushing against Leora's. The ship seemed to hum in contentment, the floating orbs spinning around them in playful arcs, as if applauding his decision. I never thought an alien ship would have such a sense of humor, Ethan said, grinning. It does, Leora said, and now, so do you. Let us see what wonders await, and what ridiculous mishaps you can survive next. And with that, the two stepped together into the unknown corridors of the alien vessel, laughter and curiosity echoing through the halls, leaving behind a trail of light, joy, and the promise of endless galactic adventures. Ethan had arrived as a clumsy, curious human, uncertain of his place among the stars. He left as a capable, inventive, and courageous explorer, ready to face the cosmos with humor, heart, and an unshakable sense of wonder. The ship pulsed gently, as if smiling, guiding its new human companion into the vast, playful infinity of the galaxy.